Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
University students love. Jesse felt the cold metal chair under him pulse chills up his spine as he sat there nursing his large white coffee and waited for his meeting. Looking around the cafe, Jesse couldn't believe how great it was to be back on university campus after the summer break and a few months of things being online due to strikes. It was great to be back on university campus around people his own age, and admittedly hot guys once again. Jesse had forgotten how he missed seeing different people over the summer, besides his friends and family. There was always such a buzz and atmosphere at university that made you forget what was going on outside, and made you focus on the amazing university environment. Even the cafe was a great example of this. Jesse loved the modern bright design of it, with rows of little black tables and metal chairs. It made the cafe feel large, comfortable, and even a little posh too. Which, as a university student, that made him feel good about his budgeting. His eyes narrowed on the center ring of black, chipboard marble, and the sterile white of the counters, with an impressive array of sweet treats there to entice people to buy more whenever they ordered their coffee. Granted, Jesse was only looking at it again because the tall Italian blonde was really good looking, but Jesse knew from conversations with his best friend who worked here that he was straight. Breathing in the strong smell of coffee, sweet cakes, and some fruity teas, Jesse listened to the gentle mood music that played ever so quietly in the background, only adding to the atmosphere of this amazing cafe. Then he turned his attention to the meeting at 3 o'clock and dreaded social afterwards. The meeting part was simple enough, and he knew he was going to love it, but it was the social he was dreading. As a placement student in psychology, Jesse loved doing his year's work experience working with a professor doing psychology research. He'd been doing it for 2 months now, and it was great. He got to do it from home, so he could do other things around it, which suited him perfectly. Jesse wasn't exactly sure what this meeting was about today, but he didn't mind. He knew nothing would change dramatically, and this was properly just a formality. But after the meeting, there was a university social. Jesse had always considered himself a sociable person. He loved going out with friends, family members, and watching football games. It was fun, and he loved having fun. But university socials were something else. From everything he had heard, university socials were about drinking, clubbing, and everything in between. Jesse didn't want to do that. He didn't like it, but he had to go, and as much as he loved wriggling out of situations, he knew he couldn't on this occasion. A part of Jesse was glad that his friend Tom was going, but Jesse still felt uneasy about going to it. What if the social was what he feared? Then he reminded himself that things weren't always as bad as he imagined, and there was one person who he wouldn't mind seeing for longer. Roman. Just thinking of him made Jesse's stomach fill with butterflies and do little schoolboy flips. He really liked Roman. Granted, he had only seen him on Zoom meetings a few times, Jesse still thought of him as cute, and it didn't help his feelings when he found him on Facebook and saw some pictures he was in. Roman was even cuter in those photos than Jesse thought possible. So to say he was looking forward to seeing Roman in real life was an understatement. Breathing in the smell of strong coffee, sweet cakes, and fruity teas, Jesse looked at his watch and smiled as it was almost 3 o'clock. Roman would be here soon. And that excited him more than anything. Feeling the cold coffee-scented air around him, Roman walked through the large brown corridors of the university towards the cafe where his meeting was meant to be. After walking all this way from his office, well, it was Professor Karen's actually, but he used a desk in it, to the little cafe, Roman was starting to question the wisdom of not carrying his laptop in its bag. His arms were starting to grow a bit tired, but that could have just been because of who the meeting was with. He looked at all the posters and corkboards on the walls as he passed, and shook his head at their array of topics. Some were about university societies, others were School of Psychology related, and others were just random. Listening to his light footsteps echo around the empty corridor, Roman took deep breaths as he kept walking. He didn't like the fact he was nervous. He knew he was going to have Dr. Karen next to him, but Roman was still nervous. But he couldn't afford to tell anyone why he was nervous. He had only seen Jessie a few times on a badly pixeled Zoom calls, but even then Roman still thought he was hot. He was beautiful on a Zoom call. Who manages that? Roman had given up trying to look good on online video calls because it was flat out impossible. No one could ever do it, so why should he? That was all, until he had his video calls with Jessie, and Roman was honestly impressed he had managed to act professionally during the meeting. It was a struggle, having to look at all that beauty for ages. But Roman managed. Even if he did have to turn off Jess's camera without him knowing once or twice. Turning a corner, Roman came out onto another long brown, empty corridor, but he could hear people talking, laughing, and walking in the distance, so he knew he was coming up to the cafe. The smell of bitter coffee was stronger too. Attempting to turn his thoughts away from Jessie, he remembered what was the point of the meeting. It took him a moment because his mind kept going back to Jessie, but Roman knew it wasn't anything important. It was just about seeing if Jessie was okay, enjoying the placement and moving forward. Moving his laptop to another arm, Roman's eyes widened when he looked at his black, blue, and gray nails that swirled together in a stunning design. Roman stopped walking. What if Jessie didn't like feminine men? What if Jessie didn't like Roman? What if he wasn't gay? Then Roman mentally kicked him. He hadn't even met the guy yet, and he was getting nervous about it for nothing. He just needed to help Professor Karen with the meeting, talk to Jessie, and be professional. How hard could that be? Roman kept walking, reached the cafe, and opened its door. Then he knew he was screwed as he stared at Jessie. He was even more beautiful than Roman imagined. On the video calls, his face always looked a bit uncared for with stunning eyes and beautiful hair. But in reality, he was just so hot. Roman loved Jessie movie star face with slim cheeks, strong jawline, and stunning sparkling sapphire eyes. Roman would have been perfectly happy to just stare at it all day. Roman forced himself to look away, but he couldn't. Roman marveled at Jess's amazing short, dirty blonde hair, and despite Jessie sitting down, Roman had to admit he looked fit in that tight jumper. Again, he mentally kicked himself. He was a PhD student for Professor Karen. He needed to be professional and alert. He couldn't keep smiling and acting like a schoolboy around Jessie. But he was so hot. Hearing the door behind him open and close, Roman turned around to see a tall woman in a long black coat and black hair. Professor Karen. Ready, Roman? Roman walked over to the table with Jessie, and he hoped he wasn't going to screw this up. But if nothing else, at least he got about an hour to stare, admire, and marvel at Jessie. Jess's stomach filled with butterflies again when he saw it was 3 o'clock, and Roman and Professor Karen would be here at any moment. Breathing in the amazing smells of coffee, fruit teas, and sweet treats, Roman had almost forgotten about Professor Karen, a brilliant social psychologist who focused on conspiracy theories and an idol of Jess's. He still felt bad for almost forgetting that she was coming, but no one could blame him for thinking of Roman too much. Taking a sip of his lukewarm coffee, Roman loved the amazing bitter flavors with hints of honey, nuts, and peppermint that exploded in his mouth. It tasted amazing. After a few more moments of waiting, Jessie started to wonder about what he would be like with Roman sitting close to him. Then he panicked. What if he said the wrong thing? What if he embarrassed himself and Roman? What if Roman wasn't gay? Jessie smiled as he took another amazing sip of his coffee, as he realized that the problem with being gay in a straight world. He swore gays had it harder than straighter people for finding love. Straight people only needed to see a woman, then chances are she's a possibility. Then the straight man can start the relationship, and all that courting as his grandparents called it. Gay people. They see a man, but that means nothing. He's probably straight, loves women, and gays can only admire them from afar. Meaning gay people need to spend at least 3 times longer trying to find a possible man before any of that courting. He couldn't believe his grandparents still called it that, could begin. But he loved men, being gay and being proud of it. Looking around the cafe, with its little black tables and metal chairs, and listening to the music in the background, Jesse took a deep coffee-scented breath and promised himself to act professionally, not to screw up, and remain calm. Hearing the cafe door open, Jesse looked up and swore under his breath, as he knew that was going to be damn well impossible, as he saw Roman in person for the first time, and he was. Jesse didn't actually know. He wasn't his normal type of dead-drop gorgeous, but there was just something about him. Jesse couldn't help but smile as he looked at Roman's beautiful brown puffy hair that looked amazing, his slim fit body, and his smooth round face with a little mini beard growing out. He didn't know what it was, but there was just something so beautiful about Roman. He was even more beautiful than his pictures and video calls. Jesse had to talk to him. Hearing the cafe door open again, Jesse's smile lessened a little as he saw a tall woman with long black hair and wearing an even longer black coat walk in, and Professor Karen waved at him and said something to Roman. Watching them both walk over, Jesse tried to focus on both of them equally, but his eyes kept flicking back to Roman. Jesse was trying to work out what was so beautiful about him, but he couldn't. Roman was beautiful, there were no reasons for it, he just was. When they both sat down, Jesse said hello, and did the normal introductions to Professor Karen and Roman. But Jesse's mind was really focused on Roman as he got out his laptop and set it up. Whilst Roman sets up his laptop, "How are you finding the placement so far?" Professor Karen asked. Jesse forced himself to look away from Roman. "Good, thank you. I'm enjoying it, and it is interesting work. Especially on the literature review." "Definitely. The articles you're finding are really good, and you're actually helping me with some of my final year students," the professor said. Jesse looked at Roman again before returning to the professor. "Great, what are they working on?" Jesse asked. "You'll love this. One's working on how personality affects a person's vulnerability to conspiracy theories. And another is focusing on improving group relationships by combining some approaches I've conducted research on." As the conversation continued, Jesse kept flicking between the professor and Roman. He wanted to moan at himself because he knew he shouldn't have been acting like this, but it felt so right. He loved looking at Roman's puffy hair and amazing face and body. He looked so beautiful. And Jesse's butterfly-filled stomach, sweaty palms, and reddening face didn't help him too much. "You okay, Jesse? You seem a little red," Professor Karen asked. Jesse wished the ground would swallow him up, but he saw Roman look up from his laptop and smile at him. He wasn't sure how to take that, but if the professor, the person who was in charge of his placement, was picking up on things, he knew he had to try and control himself. "Yes, sorry, Karen, I'm a bit hot. Do you mind if I take my jumper off?" Jesse asked. "Of course not. I better take my coat off too," the professor said, smiling. As Jesse took his jumper off, he looked at Roman a couple of times, and to his surprise he was smiling, biting his lip, and his eyes were locked on Jesse. Jesse didn't know how to take that. He wanted it to be a sign that Roman liked him, but Jesse reminded himself to be professional and try not to look like a loved-up schoolboy in front of the professor. As the professor started to talk about the experiment and things moving forward, Jesse noticed Roman's nails. They were a beautiful mixture of black, blue, and gray. They were beautiful, just like Roman. And for the first time ever, Jesse felt like he wanted to paint his nails. He had never been interested in any of the stereotypical gay stuff. He had had lots of friends and boyfriends who liked nail polish, pink and feminine jewelry, but that stuff didn't do anything for Jesse. Until now. Jesse smiled briefly, as he knew that he had no reason, probably, to be worried that Roman wasn't gay, or at least a little bit inclined. After a great meeting that Jesse loved because the experiment, everything moving forward, and spending more time with Roman sounded great. The professor shook Jess's hand, and made him promise he was going to be at the social tonight. Jesse was definitely going now. Professor Karen put on her long black coat, told Roman to meet her in her office, and left. Jesse stood up at the same time as Roman, and they stared into each other's eyes and smiled. Jesse knew this was weird and strange as his stomach did little schoolboy flips, but Roman was so beautiful. "I'll see you later then," Jesse said, biting his lip. Roman shook Jess's hand. Jesse loved the little explosion of sparks between them. "I look forward to it," Roman slowly said, also biting his lip. After Roman had gone, Jesse collapsed into his chair, feeling weak, sweaty, and lightheaded. The rest of his placement was going to be hard if he kept having to see Roman every day. But he wouldn't have it any other way. He just hoped Roman felt the same way. Stepping into Professor Karen's small office with 2 desks and a filing cabinet that Roman didn't like, he breathed in the amazing sense of Karen's flowery perfume, and he listened to the sounds of keyboard tapping, students walking in the corridor, and the howl of the wind outside. As Roman looked at Karen, who was typing away, smiling, and still wearing her long black coat, he wondered what she was smiling about. He knew she always smiled and was a happy person. It was one of the reasons why he wanted her as his supervisor for his PhD, but this smile was different. Sitting on his cold desk, Roman tried out to react as the cold shot up him, and he stared at Karen, waiting for her to say something. He was going to have to wait until the social, or wait until he passed out, from her flowery perfume that was growing stronger and stronger by the second. After a few moments, Karen finished whatever she was typing, closed her laptop, and looked at Roman, smiling. "Sorry about that, I was starting the introduction to our new paper," Karen said. "I thought you would take a bit longer with Jesse." Roman's eyes narrowed on her, noticing her smile was getting bigger. Roman looked at the door, making sure it was shut. "Why?" "Come on, Roman, I saw the way you two were staring at each other. I'm surprised the entire cafe didn't notice." Roman bit his lip. He didn't want Karen to think less of him. What if she reported him to HR? What if she was concerned about safeguarding? What if? Roman knew he had to reassure her. "Professor, I can." Karen laughed a little. "RO, how long have we known each other?" Roman shrugged. "I taught you for 3 years during your undergrad, a year for your master's, and I'll be your supervisor for the next 4 years for your PhD." Roman didn't know where she was going with this. "RO, I'm saying I know you. I've known you for basically 5 years at this point, and what I saw today was..." Roman wished the ground would swallow him up. He didn't want her to say unprofessional, indecent, or any other word that could get him kicked out. "Great. That's the first time I've seen you truly happy. Sure, you've had boyfriends in the past 5 years, but you have never looked at them or spoken about them how you look or talk about Jesse." Roman had no idea what to say. It didn't sound like she was condemning him, but what if this was a test? "It's not like this, RO, you're scared. I get it. But as an unofficial friend, please don't let you suppress these feelings forever." "But the university," Roman said. Karen nodded, swiped her laptop a few times, and showed something to Roman. When Roman got closer, it looked like some documents about Jess's placement. It was. These were the HR document that Karen had to sign for the safeguarding and paperwork side of the placement. Something Roman was glad he never had to do. Karen pointed to some names at the bottom. "What does that name say?" "And the position." "Professor Karen, placement supervisor," Roman said. Karen nodded. "As far as the university is concerned, I am in charge of Jesse and his placement. You are just another student under my supervision. Yes, work together." Every PhD student and supervisor work closely together. Roman started smiling. Yes, you have two. 3? Karen said, and Roman knew where she was going with this. 3, Roman said. 3 teaching sessions a week. Still, in the eyes of the university, you are not a teacher, not in a position of power, not anything. You are just a student like Jesse. And guess what relationship can happen between students? Roman bit his lip and looked to the floor. Of course, RO. Just to be on the safe side, I probably shouldn't know of a relationship if it happens. But I don't care. As long as you both get the work done, I really don't know. I like you. I like Jesse. You're both great students and will be great psychologists one day. Roman kept looking at the floor, breathing in Karen's flowery perfume and listening to the howl of the wind as he wondered about what she had just said. His smile grew as he thought about how beautiful, hot and stunning Jesse was. He was amazing, and the way he took his jumper off, that was hot. As his face reddened, Roman didn't want to push these feelings away anymore. He wanted to act on them, but he still wasn't sure. He believed Karen about the university's likely position if they found out, but there was something still nagging at him. Then he realized and laughed a bit. He wasn't concerned about himself. He knew he was fine. He was a successful student and had Professor Karen to support him. But Jesse didn't. That's what he was concerned about. Roman was worried if something bad could happen to Jesse, would the university not be so kind to him? Roman couldn't let that happen. He looked back at Karen, who was still smiling at him. You want me to do this, don't you? He asked. Believe me, I'm over 40 and I looked at a man like you do towards Jesse. I wish I'd taken a chance. Please don't make the same mistake. Roman smiled and nodded. He was going to spend the night with Jesse at the social. He was going to learn more about him, stare at his stunning eyes, hair and face, and maybe ask him out. Roman smiled at that idea. He was definitely going to ask him out, maybe to coffee, maybe something stronger, maybe even dinner. And if nothing happened beyond that, that was fine, because he had taken the chance and that's all he wanted. Looking at his watch, Jesse felt a wave of nervousness wash over him as he knew it was almost time for the social. Even with that beautiful Roman there, Jesse was still nervous. Jesse started to walk down the long brown corridor with little random posters and announcements on the walls as he went to the room where the social was being held. Breathing the smell of strong bitter coffee from the cafe nearby, he felt his face reddened, his head go light, and his stomach flip as he thought about staring and being close to Roman for so long. It would be unbearable being so close, but so far from what he actually wanted. As Jesse heard the talking, laughing, and loud footsteps of other students, Jesse wondered if he shouldn't go. Sure, he would have to explain himself later to Professor Karen, but at least he wouldn't have to sit there for hours, talking, smiling, and admiring Roman without being able to do anything about his feelings. He was going to have that for the rest of the academic year, working side by side with such a perfect, beautiful man that in itself was going to be great, but difficult. But Roman did like him. When he remembered how Roman's brilliant eyes looked at him normally, and how he stared at him when he took his jumper off, Roman had to like Jesse. He knew that, but would he really risk himself in the eyes of the professor and the university just for a mere boy like Jesse? Jesse didn't know, but he wished Roman would. Continuing to walk down the corridor, Jesse smelt scents of fruit teas in the air, knowing from other students, Professor Karen loved to bring them to socials. Even now he could taste their sweet fruitiness on his tongue. Sweat started to roll down his back. Jesse stopped and stood there for a moment. He so badly wanted Roman. He wanted to run his fingers through his beautiful puffy hair, stare into those brilliant eyes, and do lots of things with him. But Jesse was scared. He didn't want to get hurt, and he didn't think he could handle getting rejected from such a beautiful guy such as Roman. Jesse went to turn and walk away when he realized the worst thing that could happen during the social was he could have to admire Roman's beauty from afar for a few hours. There was nothing bad about that. So Jesse kept walking down the corridor, turned left into a large white-walled room. It was perfect for a social, with all its large tables and chairs for sitting around. When Jesse looked around, he knew there were other people there, but he saw the only person he needed. Roman was sitting there, looking right at him, and he gave Jesse a schoolboy grin. In that moment, Jesse knew no matter what happened tonight, he was going to ask Roman out and hope, pray, whatever that Roman would say yes, and whatever their relationship turned into, it would last a long time, hopefully past the end of the academic year and into the far future. When Jesse stood, Roman continued to look at him with his little schoolboy grin. Roman pulled out the chair next to him, and Jesse went straight over. Jesse knew his and Roman's future together was looking bright, and that things were going to be good for a long, long time.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help us spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.